Is your debt causing you sleepless nights? Knock your debt out with Debt KO. And your debt won't be the only thing keeping you up at night. Debt KO, free impartial advice on all your debt.
Razavani for IFL TV in association with MTK Global. With me, CEO Black Box Management, Mr. Dean Whyte. Dean, how are we doing?
Excellent, man. I'm here, man. How are you?
Thank you for jumping. I'm good. Thank you for jumping on this evening. I know it's difficult for you to get at home, but we got you in the car, so it'll do. It will do. Dean, just want to hit straight to the weekend. It was a big domestic clash. People called it the biggest clash since Chisora Fury, potentially. Daniel Dubois, 23-year-old, young heavyweight up against an experience with amateur pedigree in Joyce. Let's forget the fight night itself. Prior to the fight, how were you kind of looking at
this dropping phone is fucking terrible. I don't think you noticed. Sorry, brother.
What were your thoughts about the fight before Saturday night?
Same as what I think now. You know, I feel like the experience, you can't buy experience. Listen, Joyce had a vast amateur pedigree. Sometimes it doesn't mean much in the pro ranks, but you know, they don't give out silver Olympic medals. He's won European Games, World Games. He's won a lot of stuff. The juggernaut's a juggernaut for a reason. Hell of a chin. And all these stuff, you know, it was starting to mount. The question was, on the big occasion, could Daniel Dubois rise to the occasion? The second question was, can Joyce take Daniel Dubois' power? He negated the power by, you know, stepping off, jabbing, moving his head off to the side, and continuing moving to the right. As the eye closed, he showed his experience, and a lot of people. Do you know what? I think my problem with this fight was a lot of people was not giving Joyce the credit in terms of his pedigree. Everyone felt like it was a foregone conclusion. Everyone thought Daniel Dubois needed to just turn up and he'd knock him out and get the win. You know, the sport of boxing is a fickle business at the best of times, and that's the only thing in it which disappointed me, that, you know, there was kind of writing Joyce off. And, you know, listen, I've said it before and I've said it many times. I've even I did an interview last week just before the fight, and I was saying, listen, if you look at his resume, in terms of fighting the best caliber of opponents from someone in 10 fights or 11 fights prior to this fight, he's got the best resume. You know, when he's fought Ustinov, Brian Jennings, Lewis, Ian Lewison, Stavern, Daniel Dubois. Listen, his resume is unrivaled. You know what I mean? But yet again, he had a long, extensive career. He's 35 years of age, so he can't be. What the fuck is going on with his fucking phone? Sorry. So, you know what? I think every time someone rings, it vibrates and bloody drops. But I'm gonna hold it, man. I decided to hold it. I don't think that's better. Sorry about that. Apologies. I think this is as bad as the one I done the other day when it dropped about 10 times in the other day. Bloody hell. But yeah, so for me, look, listen, you know, where do we start in terms of how the fight ended and how it actually began? Because I think nerves played a big part in that, because as you could see, he looked really tense. He couldn't get his jab off properly. His right he weren't, you know, turning his hips into his right. I know even though Joyce was, you know, stepping back and then moving off laterally, but at the same time, he couldn't get the distance, gauge it properly, and let his hands go. But that was because he was tense. Because if you saw in the first round, his nose was reddened already by the jabbing. By the second, third round, he was breathing out his, excuse the language, he was breathing out his arse, and I think that was the occasion got to him. He's a young man, and it was a big, mega occasion, and there was a lot of weight on his shoulders. You know, I think the fighters he had fought previously didn't prepare him for this particular moment in time where he fought someone, a big man like Joyce, 6'6", big old unit, big old brick head, solid as solid as anything. And he took a few big shots and he just shook it off and carried on doing his thing. You know what I mean? So I think there was a lot of things happening in there. Inexperience played a part because I feel like he didn't have a plan B when it was going his way. I felt like he became a bit disillusioned when the power wasn't working, when he couldn't hit the target. He was kind of a little bit like, well, what do I do now? And then his eyes started to get, bashed up, started to get closed. And I think, the writing was on the wall as the fight went on, to be honest, you know what I mean?
He got a lot of criticism. Obviously, he took the knee, and then he saw the referee count to 10, and he didn't want to carry on fighting, obviously. He got a lot of criticism from a lot of people in the industry, boxing, fighters, fans, public, managers, promoters, etc. Was it fair to give him that criticism?
Do you know what? I don't want to add no more salt to the wound and stuff like that. But what I would say is this: the sport is renowned for the gladiator sport. The sport of being a warrior, going out on your shield, and many boxers live and swear by that kind of monarch. You know what I mean? It was a tricky situation because I felt like maybe he needed to, his corner could have done him a favor and got him out of there. That would have been the better thing for him in that instant, if they done him a favor and seen that, and it seemed to me the body language didn't seem correct in there. I think in the second round, they gave him a rollick and he came out and he tried to have a go. You could see the energy. And it was more forced than anything because he was forcing it and he kept eating shots. He weren't really moving his head. He didn't parry any jabs. There was so much things going on in there. But I'm saying these guys know their fighter. They should have known. But maybe, because they wanted to believe, because they knew he had that power, heavyweight boxing, all it does takes one mistake and they felt like because he's got that power, they're going to leave him in there with the possibility and the chance that he could do something and he might catch him at some stage. But when you're talking about someone who's experienced as Joyce, you just saying you're going to catch him with one shot and get him out of there, as it proved on the night, it's a lot harder seeing on watching him fight, previous people watching him in sparring, saying he's easy to hit. On occasions he is, but I had said prior to this that some fighters rise to the occasion, especially when they know there's a lot more chips on the line, they perform better. Some guys, when they fight lesser opponent, they perform to the opponent. When they fight better opponents, they raise the bar and they know that there's a lot on the line. And from this, we can move on and go into bigger and greener pastures and stuff like that. So I felt like that, but I don't want to go in and criticize him. This sport is hard enough. I find it hard enough as it is getting around. I don't want to upset any more apple carts and burn any bridges. Listen, deep down in his heart, he'll know what he's done in there. I'm saying, if people say he quit, it's a big possibility. But yet again, what you've got to look at is, I saw online the guy, what's the guy's name who had the 9 eye surgeries, the Olympian guy who boxed on. He said he got caught in the eye in the second or first round, fought on for 8 rounds with a damaged eye, and that was the difference between him. He had 9 operations, and he had to quit boxing. Do you remember the guy I'm talking about? He was a middleweight, I think, or something like that. I can't remember his name anyway. I read it online recently, and he was saying, listen, if he could do it again, he'd probably have took a knee, and that might have saved his career. Anyway, look, he's got a damaged eye. I know there's many guys that have fought on with a damaged eye. Look, the other day, Denzel Too Sharp against Heffron, his corner done a good thing. They saved him in the corner. Maybe the doctor could have came in. Really, the doctor should have come in and had a look and maybe pulled him out and saved him. But listen, he's a young man, man. Listen, he will come again. That's what I'll say. He will come again. He's got a lot to learn. I think he needs to go back to the drawing board. He's going to go and look at that, and he's going to come back. And this game isn't about having power alone, because power alone can take you only so far. You need skills. You need to know how to negate things like what Joyce was doing there. He's moving excellent, jabbing, stepping off, jabbing, moving his head to the right, and then moving off to the right. This game's a bit more than just one trick pony having a big power shot, having a big right hand and stuff like that. But when it comes back down to what we're saying, I leave the others to kind of go into that, because I had a little bit of a banter the other day about it, but you know, I can't bother to go on and continue to reap any more havoc on him. Because look, he is a very, very good prospect. I feel like it was just a bit too soon. You know, like that. I think he's got all the attributes. He's a big lump. He lives the life. He's got great. He's got a great jab. I didn't see none of that night. You know what I mean? And I understand the cage to take over. Imagine if the fans were there. He'd probably have been even, probably would have been in a worse position because, the pressure in front of fans would have been something. Oh, Joe Joyce has done it. He's done it. He's been all around the world. European Games, World Games, Olympics, loads of stuff. He's had those occasions behind closed doors, with fans, without fans, a lot of pressure. And I said this to someone, look, he fought someone like Hrgovic, a big puncher, similar to Daniel Dubois. He's fought Usyk, same puncher, pressed him back. And I think all of that experience came into play on the night, man. Listen, I wish him all the best. I hope he recovers well, and I hope they do something. I hope they take a look in the mirror, a real big hard look in the mirror, man, because there's a few things that he needs to do. You know what I mean?
Obviously for Joe, and I'll end on this. Obviously on Joe, the horizon has opened up for him. He can potentially go out there, Usyk's there, maybe a Dylan Whyte, maybe a Chisora, but these big fights are now there for him because he's proven he belongs in that kind of division now, the top end of the division where he can fight the likes of the elite.
No, absolutely. I can't see Dillian looking at him right this second. When you're talking about making these kind of fights, you got to look at if this is if these kind of fights occur, it's when, for argument's sake, me looking at the chessboard, yeah. If he gets the Usyk fight, if Joshua vacates the WBO, he gets the Usyk fight, he wins that Usyk fight, and then he becomes a world champion. That's a possibility. The likes of someone like Dillian Whyte looking at that fight because it's for a world title. At this juncture, what you got to look at, he's only just won the British. He's only just won the European. So when you're talking about that, all credit to Joe. He's an amazing athlete. He's on the fringe of world level, but he's only just won the European title. So he's in and around that argument, if you get my meaning. In and around European level, in and around the fringe world level. But, he's beaten world level opponents like Brian Jennings is world class, and he managed to come through that fight. And I think he just needs to. I can't see them waiting it out. But if he can fight some people in and around that, maybe say for example, if he doesn't want to sit out for Usyk, because I don't know, are Matchroom and Queensbury really gonna do a deal and get this fight off the ground? Listen, remember, Frank Warren's still waiting for that call from Eddie Hearn. We already know Eddie Hearn's a very difficult man to return calls and reply back to stuff like that, So I think that one will be in a wing and a prayer for that one. Let's see if they're going to do any business. If not, I think there's good fights out there, especially good learning fights that could prepare Joe Joyce going into like European guys, fringe world level, going up the table, as it were. But obviously he's taking Daniel Dubois' spot, so he's actually, like number one in the WBO, so he's world level-ish. But what I'm looking at is he's only just won the British and European, so we don't want to continue rushing him. I suppose he hasn't got a lot of time. I think someone like Otto Wallin, who gave Tyson Fury a hell of a night and a lot of trouble, would be an interesting fight. That would be someone I'd like. He's a big guy, southpaw. It'd be nice. I think something like that. It'd be nice to see him fight him and see how he does with him. And I'm looking, like I said, right now Joe's in a position where he's, like you say, he's fringe. He's like European champ, fringe world level. So the guys he's gonna fight, he can't go and fight, certain people because he doesn't want to go back on himself. He wants to advance. And he wants to gain a little bit more experience. I'm thinking, for me, I think that's a good fight, Otto Wallin. I think obviously it's a southpaw. He's a big guy. There's not, you got to look at the big guys in the divisions of who. Obviously, Frank Warren's got Tyson Fury, but yeah, again, Tyson Fury's caught up with the trilogy with Deontay Wilder, and then the two fights with Anthony Joshua. So it's literally about matchmaking, who your team's going to look at and see who they think you could learn from and advance from. You know what I mean? So I don't know. It's going to be interesting for him. Like you said, he's in and around the argument 100%. But when you're talking about guys like Dillian Whyte, he's a pay-per-view fighter. So when you're talking about pay-per-view fighters, it's all about numbers. You know, like when you see like Floyd, you say, man, if the numbers make sense, we can make this happen. It's always going to be the same for the likes of Dillian. He's built his brand, and it's always going to be about the kind of man does fight most people in and around that kind of. But Joe Joyce is still a little bit just behind doing his thing, and it's like high risk, very low reward. You get what I'm trying to say? He's got experience. He's been boxing a long time. Big, strong guy, brilliant chin, great jab. You know what I mean? But then the body snatcher's called the body snatcher for a reason. You know what I mean? So it's what it is. But at the minute, Dillian's got his own stuff to look forward to. He's got to seek redemption for the Povetkin. But it'd be interesting to see who Joe Joyce does fight. I heard them talking about a rematch. If I was Daniel Dubois' team, I would really not go nowhere near that with a barge pole.
And of course, we congratulate Joe again on his victory and wish Daniel the best of health with the eye, and hopefully we can see him back in the ring again very soon.
Yeah, absolutely.
Dean Whyte, IFL TV, thank you very much.
No, absolutely, man. Listen, credit to both boys. They're winning there. This sport is dangerous. Thank you, as always. Take care.
Bye.
Is your debt causing you sleepless nights? Knock your debt out with Debt KO. And your debt won't be the only thing keeping you up at night. Debt KO, free impartial advice on all your debt.